Appendix A, Null-Modem cable to console. You will find out another Ethernet port above USB ports. That another Ethernet port is not Ethernet connection, it is RS-232 port. It just uses Ethernet connector to replace the RS-232 connector we used to see. It works like Null-Modem cable, cross-wired RS-232. It is running serial port communication protocol, it is not converting serial port communication to Ethernet. Here is the setting for establish serial link communication to our system via that port. Speed, 9600, baud, 8-bit without parity check, no hardware flow control. If your PC does not have RS-232 port, you might need another cable to convert RS-232 to USB. For the cable to convert RS-232 to USB, it needs to install driver in order for USB port to be recognized as a serial port device, COM5 or COM6 under Windows environment. If you are with a machine with RS-232 port, then you do not need that RS-232 to USB cable. It depends on what kind of terminal programs you prefer for serial port communication. On Linux environment, we usually use Minicom. On Microsoft Windows 7, we use a public utility program PuTTY for serial port communication. In the following screen snapshot, we use the serial port COM6 and baud rate 9600. On some versions, it uses 115200 on the program PuTTY to connect the system. It follows with a login prompt. If you want to use tool like fdisk and mkfs.ext4 to partition the hard drive and make new file system, you can log in with root. The factory setting of the password is root123. You can change the password via web interface as well. If you just want to reset the IP address or the firewall setting after you mess up the firewall so that accessing to the system via network interfaces is impossible, you can log in with reset with password root123. You can reset the password via web interface too. And a simple text-based screen shows up so that you can use the arrow key of the keyboard to change the IP address, netmask, and gateway or roll back the very first firewall setting. Please note that the account root and reset are not allowed to use via telnet. But if you turn on SSH server, the account root might be exposed to be under attack. In general, we do not have to log in from serial port. It is possible to use telnet from the network interface to run fdisk or mkfs.ext4. This access method is preserved for emergency use. Appendix B, format an iSCSI LUN. Note, iSCSI function only exists in VED build. For the first time you use an iSCSI device on the system, you need to partition it and make new file system on it. Although there exist web interfaces to handle this task, it does not give too much information or allow too many manipulations. For example, the web interface always partitions the hard drive into two partitions, one is Linux native and the other is Linux swap. And the Linux swap is always with 512 megabytes. If you would like to handle it in a different way, you might use fdisk and mkfs.ext4 from telnet. Assume you have an account granted with telnet access to the system and an iSCSI device /dev/sdb is available. You still need root password to perform the task. After you log into the system via telnet, you should use the following command to become root user, $su, and type the password of root. Use fdisk l/dev/sdb to check the current partition status. The following screen snapshot indicates that there is no partition on that device. Then, we use fdisk/dev/sdb to start partitioning. After entering fdisk, you can use m for available commands. We use n to create partition and use p to print the current partition status. You can use t to change the partition ID and w to confirm the result and write to the hard drive. And do not forget to use udev-start to create the special files of block devices for /dev/sdb1 and /dev/sdb2. After partitioning, we need to make new file system with mkfs.ext4, to make it as ext4 file system. Run mkfs.ext4/dev/sdb1 as follows. Then the partition /dev/sdb1 is formatted. If you use the command tune2fs to decide how often file system check should be done. You might use the following command to ask the system to ignore file system check to avoid that it takes too long to boot the system, #tune2fsc0i0/dev/sdb1. Thus, the disk partition /dev/sdb1 is ready to be mounted on a local directory.